Revealed, how I transformed my father's belief about teaching and Andy's incredible grant funding. Jade had always believed in the power of education. Every morning, she stepped into that classroom, ready to light sparks in the eyes of her fourth graders. But beneath her smile, a storm brewed, a relentless battle against her father John's disdain. A retired war veteran, he saw education as a privilege for the elite, nothing more. Jade, a 25-year-old teacher in a small Midwestern town, felt the weight of his disapproval crushing her spirit. John would often shake his head, muttering about wasted time and misguided efforts. Teaching doesn't change people, he'd say, his voice dripping with conviction. Each word pierced her hope like a bullet. But Jade's passion burned brighter. She believed in her students, the ones from struggling families, kids who faced challenges she could only imagine. To her, teaching was a calling. To John, a folly. One autumn afternoon, a glimmer of hope flickered through the clouds when Jade learned that Andy, her old friend and fellow educator, had secured substantial grant funding to support underprivileged students. This wasn't just money, it was a lifeline. Programs that could transform their local school and empower families overlooked for too long. Jade's heart raced with excitement. She could show her father, once and for all, the impact education could make. As Jade and Andy rolled up their sleeves to launch innovative initiatives, they were met with skepticism. The community shrugged, weighed down by years of economic hardship. Doubts loomed large, and Jade felt the echo of her father's words haunting her. What's the point? They whispered in her ear. Every setback, every raised eyebrow cut deeper. Then, tragedy struck. A sudden withdrawal of funding sent their plans crashing down. As the crushing weight of failure settled in, Jade felt a tightness in her chest. How could she face John now? This wasn't just about proving him wrong, it was about bridging a chasm forged by years of misunderstanding. She knew she had to confront him. That night, she took a deep breath and approached him. The living room light flickered above like a sign of impending confrontation. "Dad," she began, her voice trembling. Before she could finish, John exploded. He raised his hands, his brow furrowing, and old wounds opened between them. They shouted, words slipping into the air like arrows, revealing a tapestry of pain. "I'm not wasting my life, Dad. I'm giving those kids a chance." Jade's voice cracked, tears pooling in her eyes. The silence hung heavy, palpable. They both breathed heavily, emotions swirling, simmering in the stillness. She waited, heart pounding, searching for any flicker of understanding in his steely gaze. Just then, the doorbell rang, shattering the silence. They both looked at each other, a mixture of relief and dread washing over them. Who could it be? As Jade stood there, hope twisting in her chest, she couldn't shake the feeling that the next moments could change everything between them, for the kids, for the town. Would this unexpected visitor provide the clarity needed or further entrench their divide? The answer loomed like a storm on the horizon, and Jade's heart raced with anticipation. The door creaked open, and in walked a figure Jade hadn't seen in years. It was Mrs. Hargrove, the sweet older lady who used to volunteer at the school every week. Her presence had always been a comfort, a reminder of the community connections that once thrived in their small town. Jade's heart leaped. This was the last person she expected to see now, but perhaps she could be a bridge between her and her father. "Jade." "John." Mrs. Hargrove smiled warmly, her gray curls bouncing slightly as she moved. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything?" "No, not at all," Jade replied quickly, her voice steadier as she stepped aside to let her in. John grunted, but the tension in the air seemed to ease just a bit. "Just came to drop off some old books for the kids," she said, beaming. "I've been cleaning out my attic. You know how it is." Her eyes twinkled as she held up a couple of dusty boxes. "That's so thoughtful, Mrs. Hargrove," Jade replied, relief flooding her. If anyone had the power to shift perspectives, it was her. "I think the kids will love them." John remained quiet, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. His defenses seemed high again, as he recalled all those moments spent criticizing the very work Jade was trying so hard to defend. Seeing the coldness in his eyes, Mrs. Hargrove soldiered on, addressing him directly. John, I remember when you used to come to school events and support those kids. You always cared more than anyone realized. A flash of surprise crossed John's face. He didn't expect her to catch him off guard. But he quickly hardened again. That was before. Things are different now. Are they really? Mrs. Hargrove challenged gently. Or is it just that times are tough and we've forgotten how to fight for what matters? Those kids need us now more than ever, and Jade she's doing an amazing job. Jade felt the churning in her stomach quiet as Mrs. Hargrove spoke with conviction. This was what she needed to hear someone else stand by her side, to know she wasn't alone in her fight. Men like John needed to see the ripple effects of faith in education, how a single act of kindness could turn lives around. John's lips thinned, and he shifted uncomfortably. It's just a job, isn't it? No, John. It's more than a job. It's a mission, she said, her voice poignant. Every book, every lesson, every interaction, it shapes the future. You can't close your eyes to the truth. The room felt electric, charged with possibilities. Jade could see shadows lifting from John's face, realization breaking through. Yet, he held fast. You don't know what it's like out there, he said, the barrier slowly crumbling, revealing vulnerability. But I want to know. I want you to see it too, Jade interjected. This isn't just about me, Dad. It's about our town, our children, and the chance to break the cycle. Mrs. Hargrove nodded, placing a hand on Jade's shoulder. And sometimes, it takes a little fighting to show the real worth of what we do. You've got to keep pushing, Jade. Feeling the weight of their words, Jade squeezed her eyes shut, trying to muster a sense of hope. If only she could find a way for her father to truly believe. Just then, the phone buzzed loudly on the counter, breaking the intensity of the moment. Jade glanced at the screen and felt her heart drop. It was a text from Andy. Need to talk ASAP. Important news. She didn't know if it was good or bad, but one thing was clear, the next steps would define everything. Jade looked back at John and Mrs. Hargrove, her resolve hardening. Could this news change the course of their fight for education? She felt the weight of the moment pressing in, each heartbeat echoing her determination, and the story was far from over. With trembling hands, Jade stared at Andy's text. The uncertainty gnawed at her, but she knew she had to focus. I need to take this, it might be important, she said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the rain of emotions crashing over her. She nodded at Mrs. Hargrove, who encouraged her with a gentle smile, while John simply watched, arms still crossed, a storm brewing in his eyes. Of course, dear. We'll be here, Mrs. Hargrove replied. Jade stepped away, her heart racing as she swiped to open the message. A flicker of hope surged within her. Andy had been working tirelessly to secure new funding for the program, and if this was what she thought it was. Hey, Jade. Got some real good news. Andy's voice was bright when she answered, cutting through her anxiousness. I was able to gather a bunch of support, and we've got a potential grant lined up. It could change everything for the project. Her breath hitched, the weight of his words crashing into her like waves. Really? Oh my gosh, Andy, that's amazing. What do we need to do? We need you to make a presentation, he continued, excitement palpable in his voice. Sell them on the importance of what we're doing. Get them emotionally invested. But there's one catch, we only have a week. Jade's stomach dropped. A week? It didn't seem like enough time. A week? That's not much time at all. I know, but I believe you can do this, he encouraged. You're already fighting for these kids, right? This is your chance to make an even bigger impact. We can meet up later today to brainstorm, if you want. Absolutely, she breathed, determination igniting within her. I'll be there. Just give me the details. After hanging up, her mind raced. How could she possibly pull off a life-changing presentation in such little time? And yet, she felt invigorated by the opportunity. This was her moment to shine, to show not just the community, but her father, how education mattered. She returned to the living room, feeling the shift within her. "Dad, I just got off the phone with Andy. We might get some grant funding to help the school." John's brows furrowed, his concern etching deeper lines across his forehead. "A grant? What do they want from you?" "They want a presentation. I think I can convince them, and..." She hesitated, searching his eyes for understanding. "I need you to help me with it." The surprise on John's face was palpable. "Me? Why would I help you?" "Because you've been where I want to be," she replied, urgency building in her voice. "You know the importance of education in this town. If I can present a united front with you, it'll be powerful." Mrs. Hargrove interjected softly, "John, this could be an opportunity to remind everyone including you of the importance of your own experiences and the positive impact you had." John stood there, a storm brewing beneath his tough exterior. Jade could see the conflicting emotions playing across his face, the anger mingling with a flicker of pride. I don't know," he stammered, visibly shaken. "Please," she urged, feeling desperation seep in. "I need you to see this as more than just a job, and if we can do this together, maybe it'll show you too." For a moment, silence filled the room. Jade's heart hammered, she was unsure whether he would agree or walk away. As if weighing the possibilities, John finally let out a long exhale. "All right, let us see what you've got. But I can't promise anything." Jade's heart lifted as relief washed over her. Recognition flickered across Mrs. Hargrove's face, a shared understanding of how pivotal this moment was, then the door creaked open as another figure walked in. "Did someone say grant funding?" It was Andy, bursting with enthusiasm, ready to dive in. The air bristled with tension, curiosity, and a newfound sense of purpose. Could they turn the tide together? Jade took a deep breath, realizing this was just the beginning of something monumental. Tension hung thick in the air as possibilities swirled. What would happen when each of them put their hearts on the line for the sake of education? Jade felt a buzz of excitement ripple through her as Andy joined them in the living room. He was full of energy, his presence igniting an ember of hope she had been nurturing since the call. The rain continued to patter against the window, but inside, a wave of anticipation washed over her. "All right, let us get to work," Jade said, trying to keep the momentum of the moment as she gestured for everyone to take a seat around the cluttered coffee table. Papers were strewn about, showing her half-finished ideas, notes scribbled in the margins, and thoughts that had been pressing against her mind since she had first realized the potential for change. Andy grinned as he leaned closer. "All we need to do is show them that this grant isn't just about funding, it's about changing lives. We have a real chance to bring something special to those kids." Jade nodded, her heart pounding at the prospect. "And to show my dad that what we're doing is meaningful," she added, casting a glance at John. The heaviness on his shoulders seemed to lift just a bit, but his eyes remained guarded. "Let us make it personal," Andy suggested. "Share stories. You know, like the kid who struggled but finally found his voice here. Or how that one teacher went the extra mile for a student." "That's a great idea," Jade replied excitedly, imagining the faces of the students whose futures depended on her words. "We need to show them the impact firsthand." John shifted in his seat, his brows furrowing. "And what if they think it's just another pitch?" he asked, his skepticism clear. "People in this town are tired of empty promises." Jade felt a chill at the back of her neck. She understood the pain in his voice. "That's why we have to be genuine," she said, meeting his gaze. "I want them to see the heart of what we do, not just the statistics. The kids are the real story." "Right," Andy chimed in, "and we can back that up with data to show how education funding improves outcomes. But we really want the emotion to hit hard. That's how we grab their attention." Suddenly, the sense of urgency became a tidal wave crashing over her. "We can split the work," Jade said quickly. "I can gather the stories and examples. Andy, you can work on the data points. And Dad, you have to think about your journey because that matters. Your experience is powerful, and it can resonate with them." John realized he was being drawn in, and though he hesitated, Jade saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. Maybe, he said, his voice softer now. But it's not that easy. I've watched things fall apart in this town for years. Then let us change that together, Jade pleaded, emotion rising within her. If you're part of this, your voice adds weight. You don't have to do it alone anymore. It's about more than just funding, it's about the kids. It's about hope. Andy looked between them, nodding. Yes. We need to tell them why education matters. Why it can save lives and open doors. If your dad can connect his own story to that, it'll mean something. Jade could almost see the gears turning in John's head. The tension in the room felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap. It flowed around them, coursing with electric possibility. Okay, he finally said, his voice low yet steady. I'll help. Let us try to make this count. Joy fluttered within Jade, accompanied by a deep sigh of relief. Suddenly, they had a team. As they began to brainstorm ideas, the atmosphere shifted in the room. Curiosity boiled over, and laughter mingled with serious discussions about the impact of education on the community. Jade couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was happening. She was daring to hope, facing her fears, and standing shoulder to shoulder with her dad and Andy, but then a thought hit her, washing over her with unexpected weight. What if during this journey, the past wasn't done with them yet? As the night wore on, Jade sensed a storm approaching within her heart. Would they be able to overcome the shadows of doubt still lingering in John's mind, or would the effort reveal truths she wasn't ready to face? Cracks of lightning flashed. Outside, mirroring the looming question overhead. What would happen when their stories collided with the harsh realities of life in their town? The wind howled as the rain intensified, rattling the windows like a frantic chorus, but inside the living room, a quieter storm brewed. As Jade, John, and Andy mapped their thoughts on a series of papers, a sense of determination enveloped them. Let's start with real stories, Jade said, her voice steady despite the chaos outside. What's one story that stands out to you, Dad? John leaned back, staring at the ceiling as memories flickered across his mind. There's a kid named Sam. A tough case, his grades slipped like they just fell off a cliff. Attended class, but his mind was elsewhere, lost in whatever world he was dealing with outside school. Did anything change for him? Andy asked, leaning forward, his interest piqued. Yeah, John continued, his voice gaining strength. One teacher went out of her way. She spent extra hours after school, just to reach him. That kid went from failing to thriving. And it wasn't just grades, it changed who he was. Jade's heart swelled, a burst of hope igniting within her. That's it. We need to tell that story. How one teacher changed everything for him. As his daughter's excitement bubbled over, John couldn't help but smile, a rare light breaking through the exhaustion on his face. It's easy to think stories like this are few and far between, but they aren't. We have them here, in this town. With that glimmer of enthusiasm, the heaviness that had lingered in the air shifted slightly. Each story they shared sparked conversations, laughter, and vulnerable moments. They exchanged memories of teachers who had inspired them, of students who defied the odds. The more they spoke, the more Jade felt her father's wall crack, piece by piece. Okay, I know I can write something about Sam, but I want to highlight other stories, too. What about the kids in the art program? Jade suggested, her mind racing with ideas. Exactly. Andy chimed in, gesturing excitedly. We can bring in the visuals, artistic opportunities that empower students to express themselves. That's relatable, especially when we look at the emotional struggles kids face today. John nodded fervently, which was a refreshing change. And I can talk about the budget cuts, how we reduced programs that could have made a difference. The stark reality of how it feels to watch potential slip away. With each voice, each story, it felt like they were weaving a patchwork quilt of shared experiences, a testament to education's profound impact. The initial intention of securing funding morphed into something much bigger, a campaign for hope, renewal, and community strength. But as enthusiasm bubbled around the table, Jade couldn't ignore the flickers of doubt casting shadows over her father's resolve. Did he truly believe in this vision, or was he just playing along? The doubt scratched at the back of her mind, whispering fears she tried to suppress. She looked at him, and for a moment, she glimpsed the vulnerability in his eyes. What if we fail? John asked suddenly, his voice quiet but heavy with apprehension. Jade took a deep breath, absorbing the tension in the room. We won't fail. We have to believe in the possibility of change, in the hope we can offer. Just as her heart started to feel lighter, the power flickered, and the room momentarily plunged into darkness. Panic gripped her stomach. Dad! Did you get the candles? Jade called, her pulse quickening as something felt off. Yeah, I will. Give me a second. John replied, shuffling toward the kitchen. Andy exchanged glances with Jade, his brow knitted. What if this is a sign? Of what? Jade pushed back, refusing to let fear take root. Of something lurking under the surface. The past wants to remind you this isn't just a funding issue. It's deeper. Words hung in the air as the candles flickered to life, throwing shadows across their faces. Jade's heart raced at the thought, the storm outside mirroring the unease within. What awaited them beyond hope? What truths were yet to unfold as they delved deeper into their stories? Jade's heart thudded in her chest, drowning out the sound of rain pelting against the windows. Shadows danced around the room, each flicker seeming to echo the uncertainty settling in. The brief silence felt heavier than the storm outside, and she clenched her fists tightly, desperate to break it. What do you mean? She asked, her voice shaking slightly. What do you think is lurking beneath? I don't know, Jade, Andy said, his gaze shifting to the walls as if searching for answers hidden in the cracks. But when it comes to schools like ours, there's often so much more at stake. It's not just about funding, it's about the pressures of expectations, the fear of letting kids down. Jade's mind whirred, as if her thoughts were tangled in the shadows. Are you saying that maybe we're scared? That we don't believe we can really change things? John stepped into the glow of the flickering candlelight, his face serious. It's not fear alone, Jade. It's years of watching kids struggle while the system falls short. You can't help but carry that weight. It gets exhausting. But that's where stories come in. Jade exclaimed, her voice rising. We've seen it happen. Love, support, determination, those stories matter. They can inspire people to see what's possible. And what happens when the result isn't what we hoped? John's expression held a mix of concern and weariness. What if those stories, instead of lighting the way, only serve as reminders that we didn't do enough? The room felt small as they struggled with John's words, shadows whispering doubts. Jade leaned in, her heart pounding. People are waiting to hear these stories. They give us courage. They remind us of why we fight for these kids. We can show them what's possible. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating their faces. The renewed light felt electric, igniting the resolve in Jade's bones. She looked at her father, his expression softening slightly. Dad, you've shown us what happens when someone believes, and we can be that voice for others. A flicker of hope shone through John's eyes. What if they reject it? What if they don't care? Then we'll just keep sharing. Stories have a way of breaking down walls. Jade's voice was fervent now, building momentum. What if we don't reach everyone, but we reach even one? It changes lives. It matters. Andy smiled, the spark of inspiration reigniting their earlier enthusiasm. Exactly. What if we build it like a community, like a movement? Gather the stories, show the power in each one. They can't ignore that. Jade's face brightened. Together, we can create a platform. A way for students, teachers, and parents to share their stories. Document real changes happening. Make people see that funding isn't just numbers, it's about people. It felt like a lifeline tossed from one heart to another. The downpour outside still echoed, but the fierce storm within them felt contained, channeling into purpose. They had a plan, a way forward, but as they started scribbling ideas down feverishly, each word building on the last, a sudden knock at the door stilled their movements. Jade exchanged a bewildered glance with Andy and John, their excitement suddenly replaced with confusion. Who could that be? Andy whispered, tension creeping back into his voice as they stared, uncertain. Jade approached the door hesitantly, heart racing again, her fingers trembling on the handle. What if it's someone with a story we need to hear? The knock came again, resolute and loud, cutting through the noise of the storm outside. Jade's breath hitched as she pulled the door open, uncertain of what awaited her on the other side. Jade opened the door slowly, the storm behind her roaring like an angry beast. The scene before her took her breath away. A young girl stood on the doorstep, drenched from head to toe. Water dripped from her hair, pooling on the threshold. "Please," the girl said, her voice trembling, "I need help." Jade's heart tightened. She stepped aside, motioning for the girl to come in. "You're soaked. Here, sit by the fire." As the girl entered, Andy and John glanced at each other, puzzled but intrigued. The warmth of the room wrapped around the girl, and she shivered, wrapping her arms tightly around herself. Jade offered her a towel, and she took it gratefully, drying her face and hair as best as she could. "What is your name?" John asked gently, taking a seat next to her. "Lila," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a vulnerability in her eyes that struck Jade deeply. "What is going on, Lila?" Jade encouraged, her voice soft and reassuring. Lila hesitated, her gaze darting to the floor. Finally, she raised her eyes, determination creeping into her tone. "I saw your flyer about the stories. People said you were looking for people like me. I thought if I came here, maybe I could find a way to give my story a voice." "Of course. We want to hear it." Jade's throat tightened with excitement. "What happened?" Lila took a deep breath, and even though her hands trembled, she spoke with clarity. "I used to love school. I had friends, and I did well. But then everything changed. My dad lost his job. We started moving from place to place, and I never felt like I belonged anywhere. The last school I went to was horrible. They didn't care about us, just about numbers and scores." John's expression darkened. "That's not right, Lila. You deserved better." Jade nodded vigorously. "That's exactly why we're doing this. To share stories so change can happen. Your voice matters." "I want to share it," Lila said, her eyes glistening with hidden tears. "But every time I try, I feel like I'm being pushed back down. Like no one will listen." Jade's heart ached for the girl. The weight of her pain hung in the air, similar to the misty rain outside. "We will listen, Lila. You deserve a chance to be heard." "We all do." Lila bit her lip, eyes wide with a fragile hope. What if I help others like me?" "Yes. That's it." Andy chimed in, a spark of excitement igniting in his chest. "If we can gather stories from people like you, those who feel unheard and overlooked, that could create real change. We can show everyone the real impact of funding, that it's about lives, not just numbers." Lila looked from Jade to Andy to John, searching for confirmation of her thought. "You really think it would be worth it?" "Absolutely," John reassured her, his voice steady. "Your story helps build a bridge to others. It's time for us to stand up together." As they settled into further dialogue, the storm outside continued its relentless march. But in that small living room, a tender fire ignited, a sense of community forged in shared purpose. They began brainstorming how to relay Lila's story to spark a movement, but just as they delved deeper into discussions, a worried knock came from the back door. Jade's heart raced. Who could it be now? Would another story be waiting just outside? Maybe it's a stranger, or someone else with a story we need to hear? She thought, tension knotting in her stomach once again. Jade's breath caught in her throat. Like a surfer held beneath a crashing wave, she felt the urgency swell within her. The knocking was hesitant, almost timid, contrasting with the storm raging outside. She exchanged glances with the others. Andy looked encouraged, John appeared more protective. "Should I answer it?" Jade whispered, almost hesitant to break the fragile moment they had established with Lila. "Of course," Andy urged. "It could be someone who needs help," another voice. Jade nodded, steeling herself. She walked towards the door, every step echoing in her heart. As she reached for the handle, a flash of lightning lit the room, casting shadows that danced across the walls. In that split second, she felt a surge of hope and fear battling within her. Opening the door, she found a man standing there, soaked and shivering, just like Lila had been moments ago. His hair was plastered to his forehead, and he looked as if he had been lost in the storm for ages. "Sir, can I help you?" Jade asked, her voice soft despite the raging wind howling behind him. "Please," he gasped, "I am looking for my daughter." The words crashed over Jade like a wave, and her heart sank. "What is her name?" she asked as she stepped aside, inviting him in. "Lila," he answered urgently. The girl in the corner perked up. "Dad?" she called, her voice full of disbelief. The father's face lit up with a mix of relief and desperation as he sprinted forward, wrapping his arms around Lila. Jade watched the two embrace, a whirlwind of emotions swirling around the room. Joy, fear, and uncertainty hung heavily in the air. Lila's tears mixed with the rain as she buried her head against her father's shoulder. "Lila, I thought I lost you," he murmured, his voice breaking. "I was so scared." "I'm okay, Dad. I found help," she replied, pulling back to look up at him, her eyes glistening with tears and a newfound strength. Jade felt a glimmer of warmth within her. In the darkest moments, there was light shining through. She remembered her own parents and how their support had made everything possible when she felt lost. But the moment was fleeting, overshadowed by the worry that came flooding back. "Sir, is everything all right?" "What happened?" Jade asked, concern lacing her voice. It's a long story. We've been running, trying to find a place, trying to find each other," he said, a deep exhaustion resting in his voice. "We lost everything, and the storms in life kept coming." "I know that feeling well," John interjected, his compassion evident. "But you're safe here now. We want to help, we can help. Let us share your stories." "A story can ignite hope," Jade added, allowing herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could make a difference. "Once we share them, we can find a way to be heard." Lila looked from her father to Jade, an unspoken understanding forming in her eyes. She had entered their lives drenched in despair, but now hope flickered between them like a candle fighting against the dark. What if we all tell our stories together?" Lila proposed. "What if we make a plan that includes everyone who feels lost, forgotten? A community of voices standing tall." The room hummed with energy now, excitement mingling with fear. "Absolutely," Andy affirmed. "But we need to capture every emotion, every struggle. It's time to let it all out. And we'll show everyone the power behind each story." Jade's heart raced, butterflies dancing in her stomach. This was it. The possibility of something bigger than herself, of a movement that could change lives, was right in front of them. But the trepidation prickled in her mind. Would they truly have the strength to face what lay ahead? As the storm raged outside, she glanced at the door where they had first welcomed Lila. The shadows of the night whispered of secrets unseen. What if there's even more hidden out there that we don't know? She thought, hoping they'd uncover it all in time. "Let us begin," Jade said, determination lacing her voice. "But first, we might want to gather our thoughts in the warmth of this room." Lila's father nodded. Slowly, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. Jade could feel the weight of possibilities pressing in, but just as they began to settle into their plans, the howling wind carried an unexpected sound. A soft, almost forlorn wail echoed around them, a siren song rising from the storm. Jade felt a chill race down her spine. "What was that?" she whispered, a knot tightening in her stomach. The sound lingered in the air, pulling at the edges of Jade's nerves. It was haunting, like a forgotten melody trying to trickle through the chaos. Lila's father froze, his embrace of Lila slackening as he turned, a concern flickering across his drenched features. What was that? He repeated in a whisper, though it was clear he wished neither they nor the storm had answered. I don't know, it sounds like someone else is out there, Jade replied, the words barely escaping her lips before uncertainty crept back in. Should we check? What if someone else needs help? Andy suggested, a flicker of urgency igniting in his voice. John straightened, his protective instinct flaring. We can't just open the door again. It could be dangerous. Lila clutched her father's hand tightly. But what if it's someone who is scared, just like I was? Her voice was strong, yet laced with vulnerability. Jade was struck again by this girl's resilience. It was inspiring in a way that made Jade's heart swell. The wail returned, a ghostly echo that felt almost like a plea. Jade felt the walls pulse with the emotion of the moment. She looked around at her friends and the father this little tribe they had formed. Maybe if we stick together, we can face whatever's out there. Yeah, together, Lila's father agreed, the last remnants of tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Whoever they are, they need a voice too. As if spurred on by their collective courage, Jade took a deep breath, her eyes unwavering. Let us get a flashlight. And we can take turns looking out. If it's safe, we'll figure out what to do next. The group prepared, hearts racing as they gathered supplies, flashlights, blankets, a few items that could serve as makeshift weapons if necessary. Each sound outside was magnified, the wind's howl intensifying, blending with their whispered plans. As they moved, the moments felt stretched, heavy with anticipation. Finally, a flashlight beam pierced the darkness as Lila's father held it steady, casting a long, wavering light against the door. On the count of 3, Jade said. 1, 2, 3. With a surge of adrenaline, Lila's father swung open the door. The wind whipped in, tousling their hair and filling their lungs with the smell of rain-soaked earth. They squinted against the brightness and the chaos, and for a moment, the world outside was just a blur of shadows and flickering lights. Hello? They called into the storm. Is anyone there? A figure emerged from the tempest, outlining itself against the backdrop of lightning. A woman, her expression frantic and wild, eyes searching for something or someone. Please. She cried, her voice barely audible above the wind. Help me. I'm looking for my son. Your son. Lila's father shouted back, voice firm. His name is Sam. We were separated in the storm. I can't find him. Jade's stomach twisted as the tortured expression of the woman sunk in. This storm was bringing them more than just fear, it was bringing desperate pleas, unsung stories, hearts longing to connect. We're here to help you. Jade replied, stepping forward. Tell us what happened. We'll find him. But as the woman stepped closer, her foot slipped on the slick ground, sending her sprawling toward the threshold. Jade rushed forward, an instinct like an electric current igniting within her. This was more than just a meeting of lost souls, this was a chance to forge bonds, to face their fears as one. Before she could wrap her arms around the woman to steady her, another flash of lightning illuminated the sky, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Where is he? The woman asked, panic bleeding through her voice, echoing Jade's own thoughts. As they looked into each other's eyes, understanding brimming like a tide ready to break, a deeper urgency built within Jade. Let us forge a plan, she said, her heart racing at the thought of what they could achieve together. We'll find him. But we need to act now. But just as she prepared to lead the charge, the storm shifted, and a distant, thundering rumble rose from the churning clouds. The air felt electric. Did you hear that? Jade breathed, unease swelling in her chest. Something's coming, Lila said quietly, her voice a shaky whisper. What if it's more than we bargained for? John asked, eyes narrowed, clearly contemplating the uncertainty ahead. Jade took a step back, her heart pounding. The door felt like a fragile barrier separating them from chaos, and deep down, she feared what lay beyond the storm. But even with the fear swirling inside, she could see something shimmering in the distance, a flicker of hope waiting for the chance to break free. Could they really navigate through the tempest and find the lost souls beyond the door? Will we be strong enough? Jade thought. And just before she could voice her thoughts, the shadows of the storm roared once more, and an even louder sound echoed, a crash like thunder, making the whole world shift beneath their feet. Are we ready for this? The storm outside roared like a wild beast, but inside, a new kind of storm began to brew, a tempest of determination and unity. Jade and her makeshift family stood resolute at the threshold, hearts pounding, minds racing. They could not back down now, lives depended on it. Let us split into pairs, Jade urged, channeling her nervous energy into action. Lila and her dad, you stay together and search the backyard. Andy and I will check the front. They nodded, fear mingling with purpose. Each knew that every moment spent in indecision could cost someone their chance at hope. Lila squeezed her father's hand tightly as they stepped into the tempest, the rain driving like needles against their skin. We'll find him, Dad, she whispered, and though doubt flickered in her voice, the fire of determination ignited between them. Huddled close, the two ventured into the shadows of the backyard, calling Sam's name into the howling wind. Sam! Can you hear us? Lila cried, her voice rising above the storm, confidence swelling as she felt the weight of her father's proud gaze. Meanwhile, Jade and Andy ventured towards the street, the flashlight beam carving paths through the darkness. What if he's not here? Jade breathed, uncertainty clawing at her heart. We have to believe he is, Andy replied, his eyes burning with bravery that she fed off. Every moment we stand together builds the community that will change everything. Suddenly, they heard a faint cry, muffled by the rain. Sam! Jade shouted, hope flooding her chest. Over here. Bursting forward, they sloshed through the mud, following the voice that danced like light through chaos. Each step fed their courage, grounding them amid the swirling storm. Back in the backyard, Lila pressed her ear to the ground. Dad, listen! She exclaimed. A sound between the chaos, a heartbeat, a whisper, her instincts urging her toward the garden shed. Her father reached for the door, adrenaline coursing through them both. With a swift motion, they flung open the shed. Inside, huddled against the wall, was a tiny figure, shivering but alive. Sam! Lila cried, rushing in and wrapping her arms around him. I thought I lost you. Jade and Andy approached the front, now hearing their cries of joy blend with the sound of the rain. He's here. They found him. Jade's heart soared as relief swept through her. As if the storm sensed their victory, the howling wind began to wane, the thunder rumbling farther away. But amid the fading chaos, another voice emerged, the woman, her expression twisting with harrowing relief. Oh, thank you. Thank you. She dropped to her knees, gratitude flooding her words as she embraced her child. Jade's heart leapt. In that moment, she saw it, community, connections woven through pain and hope, hearts beating as one. This is what they had fought for, what they were building together, a sanctuary of understanding, where stories mattered. Lila turned to her dad, shining hope in her eyes. You were right, Dad. Our voices do matter. John's face held newfound warmth. We need to do more. This is just the beginning. He stepped forward, now eager to engage, to harness the energy they had found, igniting a new purpose. We should hold a community meeting, Jade proposed. Invite everyone to share their stories. This is about connection, real change. Everyone nodded, the resolve lifting high in the room like a beacon. Let us make it happen, Andy affirmed. We'll set up a timeline, gather stories, bring the community together. As the remnants of the storm disperse into the horizon, Jade could almost hear the echoing voices of her students, her father's pride returning, and that flicker of hope dancing like the first rays of dawn emerging through dark clouds. What if people feel alone? One voice piped up from the back of her mind. Then we'll be their strength. We'll remind them they are heard, Jade whispered, the certainty lining her heart. Because this was their fight, their transformation not only for themselves but for every kid who needed to believe that their story mattered. As they stood together in the glow of courage, memories of struggles melted away. Jade looked around, seeing not just friends or family, but a community of warriors ready to battle for what was right. And she knew the best was yet to come. Now is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this community growing strong. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this emotional ending. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video. Grab at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these impactful actions.